Unshelling Medicine Podcast. Healthcare in the language we understand.
Hello, welcome everybody. So today I have Darryl Dittmer with me. Mr. Daryl is an author. He's also a student of life. So we are going to have conversations about life because, like they say, life be lifing. So we are going to have a very healthy conversation about that. Hi, Daryl. Welcome.
Hi, Dong Esit. Thank you very much for having me. Wonderful to see you again.
Same here, same here. So the last time we had a conversation, we had very healthy topics we discussed. So we're going to ease into it, with life, what life has taught you in the journey to becoming an author and your experiences that helped you write this book in its rawest form. So what is that for you? What have you learned in this whole grand scheme, this whole school of life?
I don't know if we have time for everything. It's been a lot. It's
just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
It's taken a lifetime, honestly, and for wherever we are at any point in life, wherever I am at any point in life, I will have learned whatever has unfolded before me till that time. And then, I add more days and hopefully I add a little more, lessons and, God willing, wisdom and whatever else comes along with that. So, just a brief background. I started in Michigan in the Midwest, and that was an interesting place to start. It was cool. It was all about Protestant work ethic. My dad was a mechanic. My mom took care of us kids in the house, and I think my mom had the much more difficult job in terms of, holding all that down. That's a lot. And it was a strict household. My dad was strict. My mom was strict. But I think they wanted the best for us and they wanted us to thrive in this life. And, they absolutely did the best they could with what they have. And so that's kind of how I started. At a fairly young age, I got involved in, drinking and drugs, and I got involved in not being a good human being and thinking that something else outside of me was going to make me feel better or be better or experience a different life, a better life or something like that. And they took me down exactly the opposite road to where I became, just very hidden, very scared, fearful, anxious. My relationship with my family deteriorated rapidly and a lot, and it was not a good scene. So to make a long story short, I got sober when I was 19 years old. I was young. I had just turned 19 and got rid of the drinking and the drugs and was fortunate that I was willing at that time to listen. I had been beat down enough in here to where I was willing to listen and I was willing to learn and I wanted people to teach me how to live. And I sought out those people and I found many of those people, and some were people that I didn't know, books and tapes and that sort of stuff, and also people that I did find who became mentors of mine. And my life, I've been a student of life from that point on, and I've learned a ton about living. I think a couple of things that are crucially important for people is, number one, if you're struggling, you're probably going to have to get to the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think that's a crucial place to be, to where we allow ourselves to do the difficult things that we are required so that we can change. And if we're waiting for the world to change before we change, it's not going to happen. We have to change first. So those are a couple crucial things for me that I've carried from those early years on, and it's made an incredible difference in my life.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. That is such an incredible story of not just resilience, but wanting different for yourself. So on that journey, you said something that most people in a dark place. Some have gotten there, that rock bottom when you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You just want different. However, the one common thing that I hear is, I just don't know where to start. I don't know where to turn to. I don't know who to help. Like, I don't know where to seek help. What was that for you at 19 years old, a young man coming into adulthood, after all these beatings, that you received in here? What was it that actually made you have that trust that there's somebody that actually can have your best interest at heart to help you? Because you had to open up, you had to accept that there was a problem that needed to be fixed. What was that turning point that, lit up that trust in, another person to help you? What was that like?
It was difficult to accept that, but there was an intervention done basically with me. And so it was a choice of mine, but it was more or less go into treatment, go into drug and alcohol treatment, or, have a nice life. And I decided that I was going to try it. Now, was I going to try it with all of the earnestness and fervor at my command? No, I was not ready to do that, but I was ready to go in and see if there was something different, or at least see what was there. So I was put on a road, which for me, once I got out of treatment, included the 12 steps, included a 12-step program. And it was crucial for me because, so many people look at the 12 steps and they say, oh, it's supposed to help you with, with drinking or drugs or weight or, overeating or gambling or sex or whatever it is. And that is true. But generally, it's only one step out of those 12 where it actually addresses those issues. The other steps are to change the person, to change the mechanism.
Right.
And so I was introduced to the 12 steps, and as part of the 12 steps, they recommended that I find a mentor, or they call it a sponsor in those programs. And so I did that. And I chose one sponsor who was great, and then I decided once I got sober, I wanted to go to college, and nobody in my family had ever gone to college or graduated from college, and so I did that, and I moved away from home, and so I found another mentor or sponsor, and it was difficult to make that approach. It was difficult to say, I need help. Will you help me? Will you be my sponsor or my mentor? And I think that's maybe where people, might have a big issue, but in terms of finding that help or asking for that help, but I got to say, my thinking at that time got me to where I was. Apparently that was the best I could do at that point in my life. And so that took me down a difficult road. So I had to commit to do things differently. And I think that's a difficult thing for people to say, you know what? I need to do something that's scary. I need to do something that steps out of my comfort zone. I need to ask for help. I need to, with our phones, we can find every answer we want. If I have an issue with gambling, I can say, how do I get help with gambling? And I'll probably get 50 answers. But what am I going to do once I get those 50 answers? Am I going to go down those roads? Am I going to be sick and tired of being sick and tired enough to do what I have to do? And that's the question that we have to ask ourselves when we find ourselves in trouble.
Absolutely. I agree. And asking for help is something that has an outlook, which is not true of weakness, is actually true strength. To realize that you need help, to realize that you need support, you need a village, you need a community, and to reach out to somebody, to ask for that help and support is such an incredible strength. That addiction is not easy, is not easy on the person, is not easy on their loved ones, is not easy on the people affected at all. And, for you had that community of people who loved you enough to arrange an intervention. And for people who may not have that community, you did talk about you can pull out in your phone and, Google whatever. Taking those steps is very important. Committing yourself to doing that. And as somebody who has been in that position and was presented an opportunity to be sober by being offered these 12 steps, right? What was that thing in you that convinced you to want to do different, to take on this challenge? Was it like, let me just try it, what could it hurt? Or I do see the hurt that I feel and I see the hurt around me. I want to do this to see where it takes me.
I saw people who appeared to be significantly more at peace and more happy and more successful and more settled in their lives than I was. And I saw people I was at one point in my life someone who could not look people in the eye. I had a very hard time having conversations. I wouldn't approach anything that I didn't, that was in any way fearful or made me anxious or whatever. And I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not that person anymore. And I haven't been for a long time, but that's how I was. And that's how a lot of people are when they start. And I think it's easy to want the end product as soon as we start. It's easy to say, oh, I want to be peaceful. I want to be content. I want to be happy. I want to be rich. I want to be all these things. But we can't have them out of the gate. We can't have those things, right when we start. We have to go through the process, and everything is a process. All of that learning and everything that we have to be taught and to integrate into ourselves and into our lives and sort of fit into. I liken it to, like I'm shedding my skin. Like I'm a snake and I'm shedding my skin, and I have to do that a lot of times before I shed all of those old skins. And I think that can be painful. It's been painful, in my life going through all those steps. But where you mentioned trust earlier, and I think faith plays into this too. And whatever faith someone has in whatever entity or deity it may or may not be, that's fine. I don't make any presumptions for anyone else in terms of what they have to have that faith in. But there are so many people that have gone through these things and they've come out the other end, or they've come out in the middle, or they've come out, 2 years later or whatever it is, and they're much better, and life is much better, and they're feeling much better, and they can stand up and look around and have confidence and, all of those beautiful things. So, and we see it all the time with the people that do the work. I see it all the time with people that do the work. So there's an element of faith and an element of trust in knowing that, you know what, if I set this destructive stuff down and I pick up something constructive and I lead my life from that perspective, good things will happen, but it's not all going to happen, right away. It takes time.
So let's talk about your book. What encouraged you? Because that's the only word that is coming in. What encouraged you to write your book?
The biggest encouragement for me to write my book was that my mentor, when I was 19, he was in his mid to late 50s at that time, and he gave me so much. I titled the book after something that he told me, and I'll tell a quick story if that's okay. That
Sure.
helps with the answer here. But
Yes.
so I grew up with, if you're struggling, swing harder. If it doesn't fit, just get a bigger hammer. No pain, no gain. All of that stuff that can cause an incredible amount of damage, and it had in my life, and so everything, I would wrestle with it, I would fight with it, I would try to beat it, like that sort of thing. And that was how I grew up. And so I had to shed. That's one of the skins that I had to shed, and I'm still shedding it. It's easy for me to fall into that sometimes. So as I was struggling, I said to my mentor, his name was Bud, I said, Bud, I got this going on, I got that going on, I'm struggling, I'm fighting, I'm doing all this stuff. He said, Daryl, hold on. He said, when you stop fighting, that's when the fighting stops. When you stop fighting, the fighting stops. And I said, oh, and I didn't really get it at that time. Like I get it now, and I've gotten it progressively more over the course of time. But so I titled my book "When I Stopped Fighting," and that was why. That was the impetus. That was the encouragement, because I want to give back at this point in my life. I want to help people understand, not through, oh, hey, you need to do this and you need to do that and you need to do that, all that sort of stuff. I want to tell my story. And then if people can relate to the things that I went through, and also the things that helped me to heal and continue to help me to heal, that will help them heal and will help them find hope. And that was the impetus for me.
Thank you for sharing. That's such. I am going to write that down. When you stop fighting, the fighting stops. Because as humans, we feel like we have to fight fire with fire. You have a gun, I have a bigger one, and it doesn't usually bode well. And these are figurative things that I just, the whole fire thing. And it even lends itself into even simple conversations. Have you felt like applying this concept when you start fighting has actually helped you not only conflict, resolve, or in your conflict resolution experience, but it also has affected how you take in things?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It's interesting because there's different levels of the fight, right? When I'm in different degrees of the fight. And when I was young, I was fighting drugs and alcohol and parents and other people. And, that was the fight. It was all these fights that were just raging around me.
Right.
Little did I know that fight was raging inside of me. If that fight wasn't raging inside of me, it wouldn't have been raging outside of me. And that's really how it works. And at least what I've discovered, that how it works for me. And so it took me saying to myself many times, hundreds, if not thousands of times, as I'm going through life and as I'm about to react, or as I'm about to try harder, or as I'm about to, grab something by the neck, figuratively, and, shake it until it bends itself to my will, sort of thing. I have to talk myself off that ledge, and I have to say, hold on, Daryl, you know this, that when you stop fighting, the fighting stops. So if it stops in here and I can stop myself and slow myself down and reel myself back in, it takes away the fight outside of me. It takes the power away from the fight outside of me. So it's all the time. I mean, everybody in my family, they're on board. They say to themselves, about those things. And so there's a life to this when I stop fighting concept. And it was probably the most important thing that I was shown in my life for the entirety of these last 40 or so years.
That's great. And as it's a personal inventory kind of a thing, just stepping back and evaluating, does this situation warrant this amount of energy that I am about to invest in it? Because it is energy. It takes from you, like you say. It's not just the situation, is how it is brewing inside of you, and the different, comebacks and whatever you can, say to this person or this situation. And it is really draining. And when you have that power to kind of like step back and reassess, like, will I even remember this person tomorrow? No. Is this person going to feed me today? No. Is this person financing me? No. So why apply all this energy? And unfortunately, some people see that as weakness when you smile and walk away. Have you seen that in your experience?
I really haven't. I think that people more or less respect when people are able to control themselves. there's a chapter in my first book that I call the nouns.
Okay.
And there's three things that I can't control. And that's one of the things I talk about in the chapter is there's only three things I can't control in this life. And it's the nouns, people, places, and things. Those are the things that I can't control. And so what does that leave me with? That leaves me with me. And I think that if I'm able to, keep myself from reacting or charging in or fighting or whatever the thing is, that's a confidence thing. That's a assuredness thing in myself, where being out of control or losing that self-control is something that doesn't require any confidence. It just requires reaction. It just requires loss of control of me. And so I've experienced in my life, and as people have watched me, which I think is the most important thing, is what is the example I'm showing out there in the world. I think people really respect that and they appreciate that. And hopefully they can look at that and, at some instances in their lives, apply those same principles.
Yeah. So I love that now, the people, places, and things. How does that apply to parenting? Because as parents, some parents, not all parents, there's this sense of responsibility about raising our children the way we want them raised, and having them toe a certain line, or having them, this is not about structure. Children need structure in growing up. They need some guidance. However, in young adulthood, there's some parents that still struggle with having to want their children to go a certain way, a certain path. I don't want to use the word superimpose because it has a negative connotation to it. And some of these parents are not trying to be negative or mean to their children. But what do you have to say in that respect to parenting when it comes to the noun, to people, places, and things?
I think there's an incredible importance in doing my best. And what I did was my best to bestow the right structure for their lives, the right example for their lives. And when a child is young, I think we can take it through, let's just say 15, 16. There's certain things we have to do until they're, say, mid-teens. And those are all important things. I also think that the most important thing there is the example, because they're not going to necessarily, it's not what I say, it's how I live, and it's how I interact with other human beings. And that's what the child will be learning. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So again, that does boil down to me. Who am I? Who am I in situations where, rather than, going off the handle and yelling, am I having adult conversations and communicating, like that sort of thing. So I think that plays into it. But even when kids are older and they're, 13, 14, 15 and moving on, I find it fascinating, and this is slightly off the topic, but I guess it relates. I have an older brother and a younger sister.
Yeah.
We are nothing alike. We grew up in the same household, right? We're surrounded by the same, we came from the same nature. We're surrounded by the same nurture, right? And we're all extremely different.
Right.
So how does that happen? And so we were all given the same stuff. And I find that fascinating. So my job is to be the example, not because I want them to be something, but because I want me to be something. And if they see that, hoping they follow that lead and follow that example. I could say, my mom said when I was a kid, she said, I think you could either be a pastor or a doctor. I want you to be either a pastor or a doctor. Neither of those two things happened. And that's okay. It's complete.
In some ways, Daryl, you're a pastor. I mean, you're preaching right now. So.
That may be true. Good point. All right, Mom. There we go. But I think there's I think there's such an incredible importance to allowing kids to unfold and allowing them to find a path and to watch their path open to them, because I do what I do, my sister does what she does, my brother does what he does, hoping we've all found a great life and happiness. And as parents, allowing that to unfold for our kids, I think is for me the best way to not inject control, especially at a certain point.
Yeah. I'm so happy you said that, because there is this thing that, naturally we want to belong. Naturally we want to resemble, either in appearance or behavior or character, of the people we are related to. And this has been a societal normal ideation. And the very notion to be different is often looked at in a negative light. And this is something that I have, thank goodness, embraced much earlier in life, to be different. And I pride myself in that. Initially, when growing up as a young, impressionable girl, about 8 to, say, the age of 13, when I heard those sentiments, I think I got better, from about 12, 13. However, oh, you're nothing like, your siblings or whatever, I'm like, well, why? How is that? And this is something that, yes, I am different and it's okay. And I love it.
Yeah.
But the pressure that applies on people to be different without seeing that there is a positivity to it. Is there any point that kind of like maybe affected you before you stepped back and like, you know what? No, these are my siblings. They're who they are. I am who I am. This is my journey. Was there any point where you kind of like, when you noticed that difference, that it affected you?
Yeah, I would say at different points in my life, it affected me in different ways. I wanted to, and I got involved in the drinking and drugs and all that stuff. I wanted to fit in. I wanted people to like me. I wanted to be cool. I wanted to be, looked at as someone who was, like, hey, that's a dude I want to hang out with, but that all sort of transformed into, I became the dude that not many people wanted to hang out with. And so it kind of backfired. And from the perspective of siblings, it's hard to quantify when we're younger to say, well, my sister is this and my brother is this and I'm this, and we're all different. It's hard to get my head around that, because it's just my brother and my sister.
Yeah.
But as we get older and life starts to unfold, I'm a weird dude, like
I love it.
I'm very different in whatever ways I am, and that's completely cool with me. I don't know how cool it is with everybody, but it's completely cool with me. And I'm hoping they feel the same way about themselves and their lives. But there's also something I would say about family that I think is crucial to understand, that just because someone is family doesn't mean, they can't be injecting toxicity into my life. And just because they're family doesn't mean that they're good for my life. And so I think it's important to, I always say boundaries are for me, not for them, but I have to have what I'm willing to accept. And I have a pretty strong, we'll call it a no BS policy in my life regarding others. And I truly believe that we teach people how to treat us. And if people aren't towing that line, they're not welcome to the party anymore. And that's just how it goes. And that's how I've become. And that's something that I think makes me different. I don't grovel to have somebody in my life because they are X or Y or whatever it is. People come into my life that are healthy, and I want to be healthy for them, and let's have a relationship. So I think those are important things to keep in mind as we think about family, we think about siblings, because the more different we are when we're young, probably the significantly more different we are as we get older.
Yes. And here you are saying you're not a preacher, Daryl. How dare you? Just preach gospel. It's so great you said that, because I've seen people focus on the premise of family. Oh, but we're family, and continue in toxic situations, and continue in situations where they're not heard or respected. Continue in situations where the same level of decorum is not afforded them, and it's okay to disengage, and it's something that is not society frowns on it, because your family no matter what. Yes, we may be family no matter what. It doesn't mean that I have to continue to expose myself to hurt.
Correct.
I can draw that line, and you will have nothing but to respect that line, right? And that is it. Family blood makes you related. Blood makes you related. Family can be friends. Family can be people that you meet that pour into you. That is family, right? People that actually want you to grow, people that wish you well, people that support your endeavor. That is family. People that can give to you, maybe not at the measure you will give to them, but they can give to you at the measure that they can, right?
Right.
That is family. Relationship by blood does not always, yes, that's the family unit we've grown to know. However, it doesn't mean you should tolerate things that do not help you grow as a person, support your healing journey, support your growth, support your impact, support whoever you are as a person. If somebody does not respect certain boundaries, see your position, just value you. What is the use of that? But I continue to expose myself to you, to continue to be battered. It's not, it's not fruitful at all.
No.
Yeah.
It can suck the life out of you and suck the energy out of you. And there are people who, I think, live to do that. They suck the energy out of others. And yeah, it's very unhealthy.
Just like there are givers, they're takers, right? That's the balance, right? So energy sappers and energy givers. So you have to identify the people in your life, and also, is that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. When you keep pouring and pouring and pouring, you get empty. And when you get empty, you're irritable, you're angry, and that's not really who you want to be. So please, if anybody hasn't heard anything, please hear this. The boundary is for you. The boundary is for you. It's for your health. It's for your mental health, because all of the storm brews inside, right? All of this storm brews inside of you, throws of your energy, throws of your metabolism. Just the chemicals in your body changes. You may not be aware, but things are changing in your body. That's why we have trapped energy and all these chronic disorders that it's not worth it. Please draw those boundaries. It is very healthy. Thank you, Daryl. So, Daryl, if somebody's willing and very interested in maybe hearing more from you, reading your books, how can they find you?
So the best place to find me is my website, which is daryldittmer.com, DarylDittmer.com. There's bio information, there's a blog, there's my books, audiobooks. I have journals as well. I love when people write, so I do these little journals, rewrite your life story, that sort of thing. You can grab on the website. I just think writing is so cleansing and just such a wonderful way to expel some things and learn things and sort things out. And so I'm a big fan of that. But my books are When I Stop Fighting, which is available on Amazon. And my second book is When You Stop Fighting, which is also available on Amazon. But through my website, you can find pretty much everything you need to know about me.
Thank you for that. And what is the one golden nugget you would like to leave us with? So for anybody who may be struggling with anything, be it substance abuse, be it toxic relationships, or relationships that are not serving them in any capacity, be it career, personal, it doesn't matter. What is the one thing you would like somebody to know today?
I'll tell a quick story if that's okay. I'll make it quick. I again, the 12-step work, and I went to this meeting on Friday nights in this local city, and it was at the community center. It was a big meeting. There were probably 200 or 300 people there. And there were people like me who were young in sobriety, and my friends who were young in sobriety. Some were serious about it, some weren't. Some were just clowns, and I could certainly be a clown from time to time. But there was this gentleman there. His name was Jimmy, and he was a little older, and he was a little bent over when he walked, and fairly small in stature, and didn't say much. But he was at that time about 40 years in recovery. And we used to look at him like he was a deity. Jimmy was just like, wow, Jimmy, but he was the only guy that he would get up in those meetings, and a lot of people drank coffee at those meetings. And so he would fill the little coffee carafe, and he would walk around and he would fill up people's coffee. And there's not supposed to be, but there kind of is hierarchical sort of thing in the 12 steps. If you've been around for 40 years, somebody should be filling your coffee. You shouldn't be, like running around filling everybody else's coffee. But that was the humility, and that was the service, and that was the beauty of what he brought to those meetings, in addition to the things that he said. And one of the things he used to say that I'll never forget, and I've carried it with me forever, since that time, is he said, if you want a better life, if you want to get, sober or recover from whatever it is that you're struggling with, you have to learn how to stay small. Yeah. And staying small means being teachable, being humble, saying, you know what, I don't know the answers. Somebody help me find the answers. And that's one of the most important things that I was able to latch on fairly early, just saying, you know what, I don't know, and I need help to find out. So that's the one golden nugget that I think may be helpful for your audience.
You drove the sermon home. Humility is something that we sleep on. Humility has gotten me where I am. Being teachable, being coachable, saying, I don't know, please teach me, trying things out, being able to take constructive criticism or showing and also displaying that in action is more than gold. So thank you for that golden nugget. We really do appreciate it. So, thank you, everybody, for listening. Please go on to Daryl's website and see what he has to offer. I hope and pray there was something in this conversation that did ring true to your heart. And you are not alone. You are not alone. Seek help. Be humble enough to ask for help, and also be humble in your leadership to help somebody, because we don't want to beat people down further than they're already beaten down. Life is tough. Life be lifing. So let's be humble in our helping one another, and also let's seek help where we need help. It's the greatest strength you ever summon. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care of yourself. Thank you, Daryl, for being here. I really do appreciate you.
Thank you, Idongesit. Appreciate you as well.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Unshelling Medicine Podcast. If you want to stay up to date with the latest episodes, make sure to hit that subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave us a review. Follow us on social media at Altruistic Scribe on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We share additional tips, updates, and health-related content that you won't want to miss. Have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes? Reach out to us at altruisticscribeco.com. We're always eager to hear from our listeners and tackle the health topics that matter most to you. Until next time, stay healthy and take care.